In the line of international fire over the spread of coronavirus, China has opened many fronts, brazening it out with India, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, Indonesia, Australia, and even the United States of America. Security forces in Hong Kong resorted to a massive crackdown, arresting hundreds, protesting against the controversial National Security Law and National Anthem Bill that would make insulting the Chinese national anthem a punishable crime.
We can see the CCP is trying to suppress Hong Kong people in a more serious manner. So we're trying to safeguard our human rights. We're trying to safeguard Hong Kong. We don't want Hong Kong to be China.
The United States has threatened China with consequences if the democratic rights of people were trampled.
I won't be talking about it today. I'll be talking about it over the next couple of days, John. Okay? But it's a very important question. It's something you're going to be hearing about before the end of the week. Very powerfully, I think.
Taiwan has quietly intensified the process of helping the people of Hong Kong fleeing what they described as the brutal crackdown by an oppressive regime. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen took to social media to say Taiwan was drawing up an elaborate plan to assist the people of Hong Kong, which would include their residence, placement, employment, and life in Taiwan. China has been extremely aggressive in the South and East China Sea. Both Vietnam and Japan have intensified their maritime cooperation in the face of China's aggression in these waters. The United States and several other countries have called for ensuring open sea lanes of communication and rule-based order. In the line of fire for COVID-19, China is now fighting on many fronts, hoping COVID criticism would be drowned in the war rhetoric.
In the line of international fire over coronavirus cases, the dragon is breathing fire on multiple fronts, hoping that it will be able to drown out the voices that demand accountability. The question remains, will countries like Australia, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, India, Taiwan, United States be able to unite and demand accountability from the dragon? With cameraman Kripal Singh in Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. US President Donald Trump has offered to mediate and arbitrate between India and China. About 5 hours ago, Donald Trump tweeted, and I quote, he said, "We have informed both India and China that the United States is ready, willing and able to mediate or arbitrate their now raging border dispute. Thank you." What does this mean? How are India and China reacting to this? Let me quickly cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joining us for more on this story. Geeta, has India officially or unofficially reacted to Donald Trump's offer to mediate or arbitrate?
Well, this is the second time that President Trump is offering to mediate or arbitrate. Earlier we heard him say that about Kashmir, and now about the boundary question between India and China. While this is an offer that that we've not seen a response to from Ministry of External Affairs or Government of India, but I can tell you, Gaurav, I can tell you this, that on boundary issues, on sensitive issues such as boundary question, India has always maintained that bilateral issues between two countries should be resolved bilaterally, that there can be no third-party intervention. Although I have to agree that not just us who are covering foreign policy, but also the government must have been taken by surprise with the offer made by President Trump. But for now, no reactions from Ministry of External Affairs or from Government of India. We'll wait to see what they really have to say. But we know that the two sides will be in talks, whether it's New Delhi and Washington, D.C., or our mission in Washington, D.C. with the U.S. State Department, clearing the air out and in no uncertain words telling the United States of America that there can be no third-party intervention. don't really discount the fact that it could very well be a statement by Trump to rile China. The bigger, larger war over here for United States of America is China, and knowing that this is a problem area for China, in all probability this was a statement to irritate and rile China.
Ambassador Sibal, India and China, two of the oldest civilizations of the world. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping, they've remained engaged. There have been 2 rounds of summits in Wuhan and also in Mahabalipuram on the vexed boundary issue. What do you make of Donald Trump's offer to mediate or arbitrate?
Well, first, we must not take his tweet too seriously, because if we were to take it too seriously, then we can read a lot of negative elements into it. You know, he's been tweeting very impulsive things on his tweets. He uses excessive language, ill-thought-out language. He's been threatening countries through tweets and doesn't take any military action subsequently, as he's been doing in the case of Iran. And he's making all kinds of tweets with regard to North Korea. So I would frankly not take it very seriously. He is prone to be very careless and unmindful of the diplomatic consequences of his tweets. But having said that, the implications of this tweet are very negative. For one thing, what is an arbitrator? Arbitrator is somebody whose neutrality is accepted by both sides, which means he places himself in a position where he's not favoring either party. Now, this is not what we expect from the United States of America. We would much rather he just keeps quiet.
Oh, absolutely.
Or the Americans keep quiet, rather than taking a position which says that China and India are on equal footing and we are in between. We are not going to take sides with one or the other, and if asked for, and in fact offering to mediate between the two. That is one. The other is, what is his standing with China when the Chinese foreign minister is warning the world that they are on the brink of a new Cold War, and the situation between the two is it actually larger? He has no credibility with the Chinese, who are using very abusive language against him and Pompeo. So therefore, it's a bit of it's comical for Trump to imagine that he can be a viable mediator. Thirdly,
absolutely.
We
Let
don't
me also
want
bring in.
Let me just finish. Just let me finish. We also don't want this issue to be internationalized. Now, if the Americans come in with proposals for mediation and all that, they are internationalizing a limited border standoff. It is not conflict. It is not war. When that sort of a thing happens, then the international community will get involved. But not at this stage. Therefore, from all points of view, it was totally unnecessary.
And uncalled for and unwarranted. Okay, let me also quickly bring in my colleague Shiv Arur for more on this, because Shiv, as far as forces on ground are concerned, and there is the Army Commandos Conference that's currently underway, one thing is very clear. Troop strength in that high altitude battlefield, troop strength are measure for measure, number for number. They are there. We don't require, do we require outside assistance, except for intelligence and maybe weapons?
You know, Gaurav, as always, President Trump's offer of mediation has come completely out of the blue. He just put it on Twitter, which is his favored platform, even though he's having a separate fight with Twitter right now, announcing that he's informed both India and China that he's ready to mediate. And there still hasn't been an official reaction from either India and China, certainly not from India so far on this, because, that's Trump's brand of politics and diplomacy. He's said it completely out of the blue. Nobody's been briefed, and he's put it out, for the world to know on Twitter. It's a bit of a googly, but it's also familiar. Remember last year, the number of times he offered to mediate between India and Pakistan after the abrogation of Article 370, when all those tensions were going on. Then the White House had to backpedal. So India needs to take this, obviously, it has to be given due attention and due seriousness, because he is, after all, the President of the United States. But it's also Donald Trump, and he's a person who readily scales back statements, allows the White House to temper stuff he's actually said. Plus, did he actually mean mediation for the current tensions that are happening or the border dispute in general, which have been happening for, over half a century? All those things have to be taken into account. Of course, India's position has always been clear. These situations will always be handled bilaterally. India does not need interlocutors or mediators or middlemen of any kind. So that is very clear, but it has to be tackled in a tactful way because this is sensitive. And remember, Trump obviously has his own separate war going on with China. So there's that entire dynamic to look at before actually structuring India's response to this.
And look at the noises that are now coming from Beijing and also from the Chinese ambassador in Delhi. So there is tension at the line of actual control. You have a large number of Chinese troops who are amassed at the line of actual control. Some have transgressed. There have been issues at Pengongso Lake where there were fisticuffs between Indian and Chinese troops. And you have the Chinese Foreign Office spokesperson who says the relationship overall stable. You have the Chinese ambassador in India who's saying that India and China are two stable relationships. Take a look at what the Chinese envoy has said. Sun Weidong has said, we pose no threat to each other. He said that we need to consolidate our ties. This was in response to a question about 5,000 Chinese troops being there at the line of actual control. Let's quickly listen in to the Chinese envoy. I'll get you more on that story.
My thanks also goes to the Confederation of Young Leaders, CYL, for organizing this online event during the epidemic. I would like to say first that the virus makes us keep social distancing, but it can never keep us apart in heart.
So the virus, he says, makes you keep social distance but cannot keep hearts apart. How does he then explain those 5,000 Chinese troops at the line of actual control? Ambassador Sibal, even when Doklam crisis was on, 73 days of standoff in North Sikkim, you'd had Beijing say something else, troops on ground say something else, and the ambassador in Delhi say something completely different. What should India make of this?
Well, it's a good thing that they're dialing down. They're not engaging in the same kind of rhetoric that they engaged in at the time of Doklam. So this is helpful in terms of moving forward and trying to resolve this at the political and diplomatic level. If the statements from Beijing, whether from the Foreign Office or from the local ambassador, were cantankerous and belligerent, as has been the case of the wolf warrior diplomats that China has elsewhere in the world, who've been very obnoxious in what they've been saying, the solution to this standoff would have become that much more difficult. So basically, what they're trying to convey is that they're opening the doors for a diplomatic settlement. Now, what will be the nature of the settlement? Because it's very important that the road that we are building, or the offshoot of the road that we've already built, that has to be completed, and we don't want the Chinese to interfere in that. Let me make an important point here. In 2005, when we agreed to these parameters, political parameters and guidelines for resolving the border issue, there was an article which talked about mutual and equal security. Now, how do you have mutual and equal security when the Chinese side has built this infrastructure on their side, and we have been building our infrastructure very slowly, and only lately it has been stepped up. Yes. And we are building this in order to have mutual and equal security. They can't deny us this. It is a violation of an agreement that they have entered into, and this is being done on our territory.
Absolutely. This infrastructure is being built in our territory.
Control. Exactly. Therefore, there is no reason, but I think they want to have some kind of a revenge for Doklam, where we stop them from building that particular road. And maybe the PLA fellow, they want to pay us back the same coin and try to stop that. But we are very firm, and I'm very glad that the ministry has said that we will defend our sovereignty and our security. But
absolutely. I interviewed General V.K. Singh, Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways, in that exclusive interview to India Today. General Singh very clearly said that road infrastructure will be built, will go ahead. It's almost done, should be done by the end of this year. Geeta, how is India reacting, to the so-called peace overtures that come from the Chinese Foreign Office or their ambassador, and then the situation on ground at the LAC?
Well, Gaurav, not the first time that we're seeing China hit two different notes altogether. Conciliatory one here in New Delhi and a very strong stance in Beijing. President Xi Jinping only a day ago said that China should prepare for war. While he could have meant Taiwan, Hong Kong, the United States of America, but nobody's looking away from the fact that the border skirmish between India and China has been one of the most severe when it comes to the history of border tensions between India and China. Having said that, yes, it is a welcome statement from the Chinese envoy when he says differences should be handled, but then differences should have been handled even after the informal summits which India heavily invested in, and we've not seen or reaped benefits out of the informal summit after or in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, and after that where we're only seeing growing Chinese aggression. So India is
that very important point, Geeta. That very important point that remains, Geeta. You're absolutely right. That very important point is look at the factual position on ground, and this India Today exclusive report will show you that it's not just here in the Galwan River Valley area, but even in Aksai Chin, there is a troop build-up by China. This is an India Today exclusive. Ankit Kumar reports.
Prepare for war, be battle ready. That was the ominous message from China's Premier Xi Jinping yesterday to the People's Liberation Army at the National People's Congress in Beijing. A powerful nation cornered by the COVID-19 pandemic, issuing a very public threat to the world. And today we're going to show you why Xi Jinping's words may not just be rhetoric. This week, remember, we showed you the Ladakh standoff before anyone else. We showed you precisely where the Chinese force build-up is happening. From the Galwan Valley to the Pangong Lake. And now, for part 4 of India Today's agenda-setting reporting on the army standoff with China. The scene of the action is the Ladakh we know, from the Galwan River Valley to the Pangong Lake. Now train your focus to the Aksai Chin region, the part of Ladakh that has been occupied by China since the 1962 war. Brand new images indicate large Chinese military movements along the road near the line of actual control in Chinese-controlled Aksai Chin. These could be the first images of that deployment in thousands by the Chinese, as first reported by India Today. Now take a look at this image from as recently as the 14th of May. It shows moving structures 30 to 50 meters long, a possible military convoy. The images also show visible changes on the ground, possibly caused by these large-scale movements. The road you're looking at is just 2 kilometers from the nearest border point. The road itself constructed only in 2018. The image suggests convoys are beefing up Chinese forces in Aksai Chin, with trucks much larger than the ones that have already entered the Galwan region that we showed you earlier this week. Now look at this comparison of images across 10 days, from May 14th till 24th. New structures clearly visible, which could be large Chinese troops or logistics movements. These new images appear to be in sync with the simmering face-off between Indian and Chinese troops in the Galwan Valley and the Pangong Lake, establishing that while China builds up forces right on the border, it's creating a massive force right behind the front lines. With Ankit Kumar.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.